Right now, the Middle East is considered a vortex of chaos and uncertainty. There are tensions between the Gulf Arab countries and Iran, and tensions within the Gulf Arab states over the rift with Qatar. Syria is in disarray. Yemen is the world's worst humanitarian disaster. There are clouds looming over Iraq as the Kurds continue to chafe for independence, and uncertainties about reforms in Saudi Arabia under its new Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And the entire region is grappling with structurally low oil prices as they try to diversify their economies. In the middle of all of this is Dubai, the eye of the storm. After spending time as a British colonial protectorate, the United Arab Emirates achieved its independence nearly 50 years ago. Since that time, the seven Emirates have grown ever closer together, led by Abu Dhabi, the largest and most oil-rich of the seven that occupies the western quadrant of the country. When the nearby port of Jebel Ali was declared a free zone in the 1970s, Dubai rose very quickly. Since that time, its population has doubled nearly every decade, making it one of the fastest growing cities in the history of the world. Today, it is most certainly the most diverse city in the entire world, with more than 90% of its population coming from other countries. I have a long history with this country. My parents lived here before I was born, and I spent my childhood here until the age of 7. I remember learning to play tennis in the sweltering heat. I remember learning to swim near the soft, sandy beaches. Over the years, I and many others have witnessed how this country has continued to defy the skepticism about its ambitions and its capabilities. How does Dubai do it? And can it continue to? Okay, we're going to teach everyone a bit of Dubai lingo. In Dubai, when you call someone the mayor, it's above sheikh.
Hey, no!
Okay, it's not, cut. No. Okay, not quite above sheikh, but the mayor is truly an honorific, a term to be bestowed on a man so great that he's considered all-knowing, all-connected.
No more important, he knows the best places to eat.
He knows the best places to eat.
All the holes in the wall,
and
right?
There's only one man who I call the mayor when I come to Dubai. It is Hassan Fatah. I feel like you're like a cousin. You have known me.
A long-lost brother.
I was like a young pup.
Yes, you were.
Researching my first book. Hassan was the New York Times ace war correspondent in Iraq. You've been editor-in-chief of The National. You've worked in communications. You know this town like the mayor. Does Dubai have a mayor?
Does Dubai have a mayor? Not exactly. No, because it's an emirate, actually.
That's true.
Dubai is an emirate.
That is a good point. Doesn't have a mayor. Fun fact for you. Okay, you said something very interesting earlier. Dubai is not oil dependent, it's oil money dependent.
Very much.
Is that a problem? So what's the big deal?
It's just a reality. It's not positive, right? It's not negative, actually. It's the truth. Is that, look, in the end, this is a net consumer of FDI, right? They've done a fabulous job of bringing in FDI, and a big part of it is what they've created. Look what they've done.
If it weren't for the sandstorms, you'd see the Burj Khalifa behind us.
But it's really important that it used to be a frontier territory, but actually, people want to live here today. Right? They come here, they choose to come here. And that's what's changed, actually. That's, I think Dubai today is a global city.
Yes.
No. You say Dubai in the US, you say Dubai, people know where that is today. Yeah. And that's really important. What happened is, two things have happened. The people who are coming here are people who want to be here rather than coming for sweetheart jobs or things like that. Yeah. 20 years ago, it was a different deal, right? Yeah. You came here because the packages were fabulous and good money and all that sort of thing. That's no longer true, actually. Right?
There's a regional perch and a vantage point. This is the eye of the storm. Saudi reforms, Yemen falling apart, Syrian civil war, Iraq and Kurdistan, Saudi-Iranian tensions, all going on, and here we are, right in the middle.
Listen, it's like Cloud City. Remember Cloud City in Empire Strikes Back?
That's right.
Essentially, it's an oasis of peace and stability and security. And, just across the water, you have all sorts of issues going on, right?
Just across the water. What do you call that body of water, may I ask you?
That's the Arabian Gulf, sir.
It's the Arabian Gulf, sir. Dubai is almost synonymous with superlative architecture, from the Burj Al Arab, sail-shaped hotel, to of course the Burj Khalifa, the world's tallest building, to the Palm Peninsula development, and of course the world islands, which they claim you can even see from space. Today, we're talking to Mr. Obika-san from Nikken, architecture firm out of Japan, and you're doing something, I'll call it much classier and much more professional. Over here is going to be the headquarters of the Investment Corporation of Dubai.
Correct.
And it too is representative of some architectural firsts, some breakthrough innovations, and I'd love for you to tell us about what is being planned for the ICD.
All right. We're going to have two towers, and the tallest one is 306 meters, and the lower one is 285. And in between, we have link bridge, which is called links. Yeah, it's a kind of elevated the bridgeway up above the 120 meters, and the length is about 240 meters. And the cutting edge of this project is that we're going to have the longest cantilever in the world, 70-meter cantilever from the tower area.
So there's never been a building where you had two separate towers that are separated by a highway and hanging above about 120 meters high is a 70-meter long cantilevered three-level structure.
Correct.
And that's much more difficult than a sky bridge.
Yeah.
Why?
Yep. Because the sky bridge is just connecting in between two towers. But in this case, in this building, the offset, the link is offset and eccentric offset from the two towers. So that's very, challenging.
People will be walking 70 meters high, that's about the 23rd floor, and they'll be crossing over a highway between the buildings for about 70 meters.
Yep, correct.
Wow. And that's not been done anywhere in the world before.
No, I don't think so.
Wow. And to you, what does it represent? It will be about 65, 66 stories tall. So it won't be the tallest building in Dubai by a lot.
No.
But what does it represent to you, in addition to the architecture, in terms of its contribution to Dubai?
Okay. What we meant to do is to create a gate to the city. To go through the highway, elevated highway, which creates that kind of the gate to the city center of Dubai.
Japan itself, and Tokyo in particular, is an outstanding world leader in cutting-edge architecture, and you have projects all over the world. Is Dubai now on the map for you and for world-leading architects such as yourself?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is?
Yes.
Here in Dubai, we're very much in the eye of the storm, one might say, given all the regional turbulence. But yet, if you look at the demographics, if you look at the history, if you look at the urbanization patterns, you see the potential for a very different map of this region, just like we're seeing other regions do. You are the head of Hyperloop for the UAE, GCC, and for India. This is interesting. We're at a rail congress, and Hyperloop is actually a quantum leap beyond rail. It's something that's more than rail. It is the future of transportation between cities, but you wouldn't call yourself just a rail company. Tell us more about the technology itself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we're an absolute step above now, a quantum leap, as you quite correctly said in those terms. So what is the technology? Technology, very simply put, is that we have a tube, we evacuate the air out of the tube, we have a pod, a vehicle. That vehicle could be used for cargo or passengers. We levitate that vehicle using magnetic levitation. We propel that through the tube using linear induction magnetic motors. And by having removed the air out, we've removed the biggest barrier to resistance to movement.
Now, it's appropriate that we're here in Dubai because of the many conversations that Hyperloop is having around the world. This is probably ground zero, front and center. There will be Hyperloop on Earth first in this country, right?
We would love it to be here. I think if there is a place that can actually achieve, it'll be in the Middle East.
Right.
And we're working very closely with governments in the KSA, we're working very closely with the UAE government, and particularly here in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. But we're also talking very closely and have been very successful in India.
So where would it be in India? What two cities?
The two cities that we are now focusing on are Mumbai and Pune.
Right.
And that's one of the most densest commuter corridors in the world. And having done initial feasibility work on that with both federal government and also state government, it clearly is crying out for an alternative to the current situation that's there.
What's the biggest obstacle to getting it done right here in the UAE today? Is it fiscal? Is it politics?
It's probably going to it's about making sure we get the planning right. It's about making sure that we are connecting the right dots. Yeah. So planning is absolutely critical. And then it's actually making sure politically that the project is set up so that the individual emirates are catered for properly. And also fiscally, it has to stack up. Economically, it has to stack up. Nobody is giving free money anymore. Yeah. So every project that we're looking at, the first thing we look at will be whether or not economically it's actually bankable, affordable.
Is the government thinking not just about connecting the two Dubai airports, but also Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and actually all 7 Emirates in a spine?
What we're looking at right now is, so initially when we came here, we were very much concentrating on a connection from downtown Dubai to South Dubai towards the expo site. As we've worked through that process, what we've now started to do with the engagement of the government is to have a much more strategic UAE-wide context. So we are now looking at developing a plan which would probably be UAE-wide, but then from that what we'll do is we'll prioritize certain sections of route, and from that we will then develop those priorities that we think are going to give the biggest benefit in the shortest amount of time.
Excellent. Well, good luck to you, Haj. Good luck to Hyperloop. I don't want to be the first passenger. I want to be on the second one.
You should be the first.
You first.
You should be I'll definitely be the first.
All right. Most people think of innovation ecosystems as occurring at the intersection of entrepreneurs, finance, science, and technology. Here there's a fourth element, the government. At the Dubai Future Accelerators, the government of Dubai has created a platform inviting in talent, entrepreneurs from all over the world to apply their best ideas to making Dubai a better society and to improving government itself. We're going to have a walk along this track through the accelerator to see what great ideas they've come up with. So this is my kind of government, the kind where you just basically work out in the gym all day. Just not really dressed for it. Next we'll change the dress code of government so that everyone can kind of just dress Singapore style flip-flops. So here in the Mohammed bin Rashid Maktoum Center for Global Initiatives, they're also looking at areas like global wellness and healthcare, humanitarian solutions, how to use drones to deliver benefits to refugees and so forth. All of that is being incubated here and being tested all around the world. At any given time, here in the Dubai Future Accelerators, there will be a dozen government agencies, each collaborating with several startups from anywhere in the world that are focused on solving their problem. And after a trial period, they might sign a contract to bring that company in and give them a long runway to scale up and to really do test beds and pilots all over town. BioHealth, for example, is an experiment in using biomedical devices to help Dubai residents stay young, stay healthy, stay fit, manage the data around their dietary habits and their lifestyles. Smart Dubai is all about the transportation system. How do you optimize the transportation system, especially the metro, buses, even driverless cars that are coming to help manage millions of people who live in Dubai, visit Dubai, and minimize traffic jams? Do you think of data as sensor data and social data, and you're drawing on those streams to then figure out how to solve problems?
We actually go to the people and interview them right.
Yeah, we interview people, we see what they want, we give them different scenarios to see which works and which doesn't. So we try to solve issues that people actually, like what affects people themselves rather than like corporate.
Yeah, basically we use the power of creativity, generosity and curiosity to improve lives across people in the UAE. We want to work with them.
And what role does Jibo play?
These are entertainment here.
I'm guard, security.
Yeah.
Security guard entertainer.
I am here to help you. Tell me, what do you want to do?
Perfect. Well, Pepper, I'm very impressed with your Arabic. I would like to transfer my...
Let's take a selfie. Come here, next to me. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Dubai Metro is definitely the future of travel. It's actually pilotless, it's elevated, it's very clean, it's being used by everyone in Dubai, it's very popular. It's a great example of how you can really build on top of the existing infrastructure and really decongest a city. So when you come to Dubai, make sure you ride Dubai Metro. So my very good friend Yassar, great to see you in Dubai. You've become like the furniture here. You've been here for years. So actually what strikes me is that you're an advisor to the UAE government, to the Saudi government, to the Omani government. How come Jordanians and Lebanese are so good at running these Gulf countries but not your own?
Question that comes always to mind. Look, as an advisor, you're almost like a doctor, right? You can't take credit for your patient's health. You can give them advice,
right,
but the patient has to do stuff. Now, one thing that specifically Dubai stands out with is the government's ability to deliver, intention and ability to deliver. So it's one thing to have the intent,
right,
but this government has built this fantastic, Dubai Inc. style, Singapore style ability to deliver. So when you give good advice and you have somebody who's willing to take it and do something with it, that's just very powerful.
They act on it.
And if you go to other countries in the region, a lot of the stuff that happened in Dubai, Singapore, is not a secret.
Right.
I mean, some of it is fairly basic.
Right.
You have a plan, you execute it, you measure the results.
So you are a doctor, and one of your patients is this country. They're having a bit of economic slowdown for sure, and yet it is a diversified economy. What is the next growth wave going to be propelled by here in the UAE?
That's actually a big question that everybody's looking at now in the UAE. Look, the UAE, there's a bunch of stuff that was happening at the local economy level. That is what is coming to slow down because of the size of the economy, the pie. If you look at the population and the growth in the last 10 years, it has grown tremendously. The next wave is obviously what you talk about, connectivity is connecting the UAE more and more with places like a $10 trillion economy that is rising in India, the economy that's rising in Africa. So the next wave is for Dubai/UAE to become the actual hub. And I say the actual hub, it is a hub now, but not yet the hub for transactions, trade. So, investing even more. And the Maktoum airport now, it could be the right place. The Amazons of the world, fulfillment centers for Africa here. You can see how this can serve a region even wider than we thought before.
Capital markets, right? This is a business and commercial hub, but this is not a financial center in terms of where people are transacting their pension fund investments and other sorts of things. It's not the trillions of dollars of capital that are not coming here yet. What are they doing about that?
So there's a lot being done about. It's very slow. So let's off the bat just say it's very slow. This wasn't something that was looked at specifically for building deeper capital markets here. So far, it has been a support function to serve the local trade, the local economy, some of the international trade, but it wasn't seen as a capital market. It was much more of a support auxiliary function. Everybody now realizes that the next step is, we're at the gate, the IFC, Abu Dhabi now, the capital of the UAE, is taking extremely bold steps in their new global market. So I think you will see within the next 5 years regulations that could be game changers. Down the road in Saudi, there was talk about Aramco now, maybe listing on their own stock exchange, because that might make more sense to them. So I think it's not because nobody wanted to do something about it. It was literally a support function and wasn't core. Now it's moving to become core.
I'm interested obviously in this new maritime Silk Road, the super cycle of the last decade and a half, high oil prices due to rising exports to Asia for oil and gas. You mentioned Aramco. If China gives a very good valuation for their share of the Aramco float, could we see the petro RMB, right? Not the petrodollar, but the petro RMB. Are we going to start to see the multi-currency pricing of oil out of the Gulf?
Look, that's a big question, technically and economically speaking. So if this was a pure technical economic transaction, the answer would be yes. It actually makes a bit more sense. 70% of the exports in oil and gas from this part of the world go to Japan, Korea, China. It doesn't go to dollar-based economies. But then again, that's a technical answer. The more nuanced answer of complexities, of geopolitics, of the American presence, the links to Europe, means that I think you use the term this omelette can't be unscrambled.
Right.
It is not as simple as that, and I think so many things have to fall in place before this can become a reality. I personally don't see it happening in the near future. You know, Qatar started trying to do something in the RMB sort of clearing.
Right.
And I think this is a trend, and it will be part of the equation. But I don't see a big shift.
Now, people who look at Dubai are just bewildered by the amount of upheaval they see here, the physical transformation, the economic diversification, the new architecture, and so much of it stems from the mind of one man. And you are someone who's gotten inside that head. You have a book coming out, actually, that's about getting inside the mind of the Sheikh CEO, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed. Tell us about the book.
Well, look, it's a book that I wrote because I used to give talks around the world, much like you do, but from my experience in Dubai, people invite me to talk about the Dubai model, whether you call it, some people in the US would call it the Dubai experiment those days in Harvard, but everybody would ask me the same question. What is his secret? Sheikh Mohammed, what does he do? Does he have a magic formula? Does he have super clever advisors? Does he have a magic? And I said, actually, the secrets behind Sheikh Mohammed is that he has a few things he does extremely well. A lot of these things come out of what the character he has, his focus on delivery. So I've been asked the question so many times, I thought I might as well put down some of these characteristics, describe his way of managing and leading Dubai Inc. And hopefully it will be a good lesson for a lot of the countries in the region, because I think, you know, reading leadership lessons, and you're sitting in Dubai, Singapore, and you're reading, you know, we grew up reading Jack Welch, we grew up reading some models that didn't immediately resonate with us. And I think he's a great leader.
The next generation is going to be reading Yasa for the secrets of how to run a Gulf country. Great to see you, Yasa.
Thank you.
The future has many milestones, but one of them is most certainly going to be this building behind us. This is the Museum of the Future, soon to be a 7-story temple of living examples of how the future is going to unfold. And it's the brainchild of my very good friend, Noah Rayford. Noah, tell us what it's all about.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. This is meant to be a center of demonstrating not just what is possible today to improve people's lives, and all the fundamental things that need improvement: education, healthcare, infrastructure, transport, security, the things which are highly regulated and need transformation at a real rapid pace, but also the things which will be possible in the future.
Right.
And we're trying to help people experience what that might be like as a way to get excited about that and orient our jobs and our lives and our goals around how to build a better world.
When you had the pop-up version of this at the government summit last year, you and I walked through the sort of early stage demo, and one of the things that you were showing me was around the future of food and the role of technology in producing all the food we need and all kinds of food too. Tell people about that.
That's right. So I mean, the way that our playbook is create an inspiring vision of what could be possible. So in this case, food security is a massive issue, not just for the UAE, but for most parts of the world, and will become a much bigger issue as we have less and less water and climate change begins to impact the food system. So we thought, right, let's explore the impact of automation and AI on food production, and we created something called the Auto Farm, which was basically derived from the idea of what happens when you have self-driving vehicles that give you 90% of your city mobility needs, but in 10% of the cars. So you have a bunch of empty parking garages. So let's turn those parking garages into little micro farms that serve the residents of the building around the neighborhood, but is all hydroponically grown, so you have 99% less electricity and water consumption, and there's no food waste because it's grown in your basement. And we came up with a concept called predictive agriculture. So it's like Amazon or Netflix. It knows what you're going to want to buy. So in that same way, it knows what you might want to eat in 6 or 8 weeks and grows that ingredient just for you and then ships it up. Healthy cheeseburger, right? And what's cool about that, what's wonderful about doing this work in Dubai is, you know, you can build these visions, and of course we work with scientists and academics, but then people see it and then it inspires actual real change. So we've been working with Dubai municipality, the city government, and various members of the Ministry of Food Security to see how can we operationalize these concepts in a way that actually helps improve food security here and lowers carbon miles and produces more local agriculture and really transform the whole culture of food from an industrial supply chain into a community local function that uses technology to serve its goal.
Downstairs, we were walking around the future accelerators and seeing how the different government agencies are working with startups, and importantly, there's also the sense center that's focused on global initiatives,
Yes.
looking at how some of the innovations here can be applied internationally. Drones for Good, for example, is also one
Yes.
of your pet
Yeah.
projects. Talk to us about drones and drone taxis, please.
Well,
Everyone wants an update about when they're going to come to Dubai for their first drone taxi flight.
I think we'll be doing the first trials next year. We've been working out the regulatory framework,
Right.
actually through the Future Accelerators. We had Uber through one of our
Yeah.
first cohorts, and working to develop the regulations that would enable the testing to occur safely but rapidly. And so, these are great examples of what I like to call pre-legal technologies, right? Like, there are no rules for flying taxis yet.
Right.
So they're not illegal, right?
Yeah.
They're just technically not legal yet. So in the Future Foundation, we end up trying to do these sorts of projects where we get the regulators and the technologists together to create examples and pilot projects that we can learn from and then write the rules on the back of that. So give it a year or two.
So speaking of which, this is a reminder about the focus on governance, and this is extremely important. Here, all the agencies are using sensor data and social data as inputs to help to assess the needs of the people, to respond rapidly, and even to design government around meeting those needs. I'm so fascinated by this because this is a real leapfrog in governance. When I'm downstairs, when you're walking around and you see the palm wood room, for example, that's not what government looks like around the world, but it is what government looks like here. And I've heard that countries from around the world are coming and saying, how can we replicate this? How can we do our own accelerators? What are some of the places that are now learning government from Dubai?
Well, I mean, we have a fascinating network of international partners, and it really depends on where each different one of our partners is in their own stage of development. I mean, Estonia obviously is extremely advanced in digital governance and these types of things, whereas India, for example, is making extraordinary progress in developing all the basic infrastructure on biometrics and these type of things for their citizens. So what we try to do is say, how can we take the resources that we have here in terms of the contacts and the companies and match those up with the countries at the right level of development in the right way? Because really, we're kind of running out of time as a civilization. So it's about trying to find where the real trim tabs, as Buckminster Fuller used to say, that we can make a big impact with a little bit of effort.
Right. Future is coming fast. It's going to be here first, and it's going to be in that building, the Museum of the Future. Noah, thank you.
Pleasure. Look forward to it. Always enjoy.
As many people know, Dubai's glittering skyline was built by hundreds of thousands of mostly South Asian construction workers. But in the future, the majority of Dubai's buildings are not going to be built by humans at all, but printed by 3D printers. Behind me in these white buildings is the first fully functional 3D printed office of the future. It's an experiment project with the Dubai government to show the potential of 3D printing technology to incorporate itself perfectly, seamlessly into our lives. Let's take a walk around.
So as you can see here, we've got all of the different 3D printed layers that are built up from the ground up like this, and then assembled like this. So they were shipped over from China and then put together on the site. The whole building was printed in 17 days and assembled on the site in 2 days.
Al Serkal Avenue has emerged as Dubai's hub for art and creativity. Here in this cluster of warehouses, there are galleries featuring artists from all over the world, especially from the Arab region. Tonight, we're here in the Showcase Gallery to witness the launch of a debut exhibit by my good friend, the artist, Mike Arnold. Hey Mike, how's it going? Good to see you. You have been in this region for 14 years as an architect, designing buildings, but now as an artist, painting buildings. And your exhibit tonight is showcasing some of your portraits that really capture the contemporary architectural landscape, the evolution of buildings and design in Dubai. It is magnificent. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So let's walk around and show me some of your highlights.
Well, really, this is a great one to start out with because this is a painting that I did of Bastakia, now known as the Al Fahidi Historical Neighborhood. This is where my studio is located.
Right.
And when I started my art career 5 years ago, I decided that I wanted to have my studio in the oldest buildings in Dubai versus where I was living, which were in the newest towers of Dubai.
And that contrast is still just pervasive in this city, the old buildings and the new. Have they done a good job of conserving the old architecture in these neighborhoods?
Bastakia, or Al Fahidi Historical Neighborhood, has really become kind of the cornerstone of the restoration initiatives that Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum has put together. This was on the verge of being raised, but it was kept through the efforts of Alison Collins of the Manchester Gallery, and it is now become really the cornerstone of the historical restoration projects and new projects that are mimicking the historical components that Dubai has had in the
And
past.
you've sought inspiration in some of the Islamic architecture as well, looking at this piece and that one over there.
Well, the Grand Mosque in Abu Dhabi is one of my absolutely favorite buildings in the world.
It is resplendent. It's amazing.
It is just spectacular at every moment of the day and night. And my show is called Chasing the Light, and it's basically light, whether it's natural or it's man-made. It's just about really trying to get the internal soul and glow that you have within the buildings, and really to try and draw you into the different pieces of work that I put together.
Just a few kilometers away from here is, of course, the new Louvre, and you have a number of your paintings where you went actually just as the Louvre opened, just 6 months ago, and you managed to really take it in light and dark and all of the different times of day to inspire you. So I want to definitely get a look at some of these. This is one of your pieces from underneath that incredible hanging roof, and this is maybe a panoramic view, right, of Louvre. What does the Louvre mean already to the art scene of the Emirates?
Well, of the Emirates, the art scene in general throughout the Emirates is one that has just emerged. It is really finding its own foundation and footing, in the Louvre Abu Dhabi, or the Abu Dhabi Louvre, has really become now the cornerstone that people are looking at internationally, that is representing the UAE and its initiatives to move forward. It's just been a fantastic place to start a new career in the arts.
And tragically, perhaps, that's been really necessary because of the regional turbulence. This country has most certainly welcomed in artists from Egypt, from Syria, from Lebanon, from the countries that have suffered the most in the last decade. Have you noticed what contribution Arab artists are making also to the scene? You're an international artist, but what about the Arab artists?
Well, the Arab artists, I would say that 99% of the artists that are here are from the region. And collectively, they are bringing such an immense and fascinating perspective of the challenges that they have had to go through in their respective countries, and bringing here, and the opportunity of exhibiting that in their artwork is just extraordinary. Bastakia, the Tashkil Villa, where my studio is located, is one in which the artists are from every part of the world, and both Europe, but predominantly here in the Middle East. And it's just wonderful that we have the share of ideas, the share of thoughts. And it's just a great place for each of us to look, understand, and trying to incorporate those different types of perspectives in our works.
So Al Sarkal has really become this centerpiece, or really a demonstration, embodiment of this melting pot city that Dubai really is, that the UAE has become. Mike, congratulations on your exhibit, and good luck to you. Thank you. Over the last 40 years, Dubai has grown at breakneck pace. They have been building and building and building vertically and horizontally. Planning has fallen behind. We've got tall buildings, but no tunnels. Lots of roads, not a lot of lights. Now, they're fixing that. Dubai has paused to reinvent urban planning. Instead of just high-rise and dense developments, now there's areas like City Walk. In City Walk, there's not a single building taller than 4 or 5 stories, and it's all walkable, pedestrian, cohabitation of housing, of retail, all in one place. So this is the future of Dubai.